Let's talk about the design critique. For anyone who's been through design school, just hearing that phrase can bring back some intense memories. Sleepless nights, your mind going completely blank on stage, that sinking feeling when your entire logic just crumbles under a single question. So, what is a critique, really? Is it just a public execution? And more importantly, how do you not just survive it, but actually learn from it?
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll talk about why critiques feel so awful. Then we'll dig into the real source of that fear. We're going to reframe the whole thing, not as a performance, but as a design check. We'll cover what to do after it's all over, and then we'll finish up with a survival guide to help you actually learn from the whole experience.
Okay, first things first. Let's just get it out in the open. Critiques can feel absolutely terrible. That anxiety is real, and trust me, it's a shared experience in pretty much every design studio on the planet. And it's a very specific kind of pressure, isn't it? It's the sleepless nights leading up to it. It's standing in front of your peers and professors and just having your mind go totally blank. It's that awful sinking feeling when a simple question makes your carefully built logic just evaporate. But more than any one comment, it's that feeling of being completely exposed, having to think and respond on the spot while everyone just watches. It can honestly feel like you're being taken apart in public.
So where does all that intense fear really come from? I mean, on the surface it seems obvious, right? It's about being public, putting your work and yourself out there for everyone to judge. But that's not the whole story. The real source of the fear is actually something much deeper and way more personal. While the fear of public exposure is definitely part of it, for sure, the truly uncomfortable part of a critique isn't coming from the outside. It's internal. It's the fear of being confronted with the gaps in your own thinking, the unresolved parts of your own process that maybe you hadn't fully acknowledged or, let's be honest, hoped no one would notice.
And here's the absolute key. A critique's real power and its real discomfort is that it acts like a mirror. It reflects back to you all the things you thought were buttoned up, all the things you thought you'd figured out, but actually hadn't. It's that sudden, really unwelcome moment of clarity that creates the most anxiety.
This brings us to a huge, fundamental misunderstanding about what a critique is even for. So many students see it as a performance that's going to be judged. But in reality, it's supposed to be a diagnostic check of the design process itself.
When you're getting ready, it's so easy to get fixated on all the surface stuff. You worry about how good the renderings look, how perfect the model is, whether your presentation sounds confident and smooth, and of course the big one, whether the instructors will like it. These things are all visible, yeah, but they aren't the main point.
So what's really being examined in a good critique? It's the integrity of your whole process. Is your problem definition actually clear? Does your concept directly respond to that problem? Did your research genuinely inform your decisions? Or is it kind of just there for decoration? Is your prototype testing a key assumption? And is your final proposal built on solid logic? Or is it just built on a confident tone of voice?
Ultimately, the single most important question being asked in any critique is this one. Is there a clear, logical thread connecting every single stage of your project? Does the problem lead to the concept to the research to the prototype, and the prototype to the final proposal? That connection, that's what's really being tested.
And this table just illustrates the two mindsets perfectly. If you see it as a performance, your goal is to look flawless, to hide all the problems. And what you learn are survival skills, how to deflect a tough question, how to obscure a weak spot. But if you see it as a design check, your goal is to find the real problems. You're not trying to be liked, you're just allowing the design to be examined. And the result isn't survival, it's developing your own critical judgment.
You know, a lot of people think the battle is won or lost while they're standing up there at the front. But the truth is, the most critical part of the whole process, the part that decides whether you actually grow from it, happens after you sit back down.
And this is the moment where so many students make a really crucial error.
You mistake your emotions for a final conclusion. The feedback was harsh, so you conclude the entire project is a failure. You stumbled over a question, so you conclude you're just not cut out for this. The impulse is to just throw everything in the trash and start over. Now look, these reactions are totally normal, but they are not productive.
A much better approach is to do something that sounds kind of boring, but is incredibly powerful. Organize the feedback. Don't just react to it. Sort it into piles. Was that comment really about how you framed the problem in the first place? Was it about a lack of evidence to support a claim you made? Maybe it was about the execution of the prototype itself. Or was it simply that your explanation was unclear? Hey, some feedback might even just be a matter of personal preference, not a fundamental flaw. Once you categorize it, you'll know what actually needs fixing.
So how can you actually navigate this whole process and truly learn from it? Here's a practical little survival guide.
It comes down to 3 key things. First, learn to tell the difference between the levels of problems being pointed out. Not all feedback is created equal. A comment on your core concept is way more important than one on your color choice. Second, translate the feedback from these abstract comments into concrete, actionable tasks. Don't get stuck on, what did they mean by that? Instead, ask, what can I do about that? And third, please remember that a critique is not a final verdict on you or your project. It's just a snapshot of one version on one particular day.
So let's just set a more realistic goal for ourselves, shall we? The goal in a critique isn't to be perfect or to have 0 flaws. The real challenge, and the real skill you're building, is being able to maintain a minimum level of clarity about your own work, even when you're under all that pressure.
If you take just one thing away today, please let it be this reframe. A critique is not a public execution. Think of it instead as high-pressure debugging. It's a diagnostic tool that's designed to find and fix the bugs in your thinking, and that's it.
And I'll leave you with a question to think about. I want you to think back to your most difficult critique. What was the real source of the pain? Was it actually what someone else said to you? Or was it that brief, sinking moment when you saw with your own eyes that the pieces of your own project weren't really connected?
In our next explainer, we'll tackle another feeling that's probably familiar to a lot of you. Why is it that even after you've learned so many skills and methods, you can still feel completely and totally lost when you start a new design project?